Welcome, everybody. My name is Christy Dancause. I am the Executive Director with ACG Boston, and I'm thrilled to introduce John Gardella, who's a shareholder with CMBG3 Law. John, great to have you here.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you. John is actually a panelist for and sponsor of our upcoming Manufacturing and Industrial Conference, which will be on April 6th, virtually in the Remo Ballroom. But we wanted to have a conversation with John and chat a little bit prior to that event to learn a little bit more about PFAS, which is where John has been doing a lot of work recently with some of the recent regulation changes. So, John, why don't we jump right into some questions? For those of you who are not familiar with PFAS, what is it and what's the role that you see the new administration playing in shifting regulations?
Right, so what are they? It's actually a collection of chemicals. There are over 7,000 of them in the sort of class that we call PFAS. They were made, actually they're man-made, they were made in the 1930s and 1940s, the original two. But since then, it's obviously, ballooned into a huge industry for the chemical giants of the world. And really what they are is chemicals that are used for anything that you need to coat to make it lip resistant, water resistant, water repellent. The most common examples of this and the original uses of it are actually Teflon coating in pans and cookware. But today it's in so many things, thousands of products, camping gear, the shoes that you wear, the clothing that you wear. I can look around the kitchen here in my home and find a number of examples from appliances to utensils in some instances. So it's very, very applicable to so many types of products. So, regulatory wise, these things haven't really been on the radar actually until the last 4 or 5 years. That's not to say that the EPA didn't know about them much before. It was actually in the year 2000 that they made one of the first manufacturers of the chemicals stop using some of the original ones. But the regulatory action hasn't taken place until 18, 19 years later. And that's what we're seeing now. So, right now there's this sort of mishmash of states. Some of them have enacted regulations to drinking water and air pollution and things like that. Some of them haven't. And the ones that have, the states that have, the regulations are all over the map, basically. So it can be hard for companies and investors to figure out, well, how is this really going to impact corporations? The Biden administration campaigned on, the number 2 environmental goal was actually bringing sort of uniformity to the PFAS landscape and actually enacting set regulations at the federal level, which have never existed before. So, I've been predicting for a while now that this year, maybe early next year, is exactly when we're going to see the first instance of that happening. And all the foundational steps are already in place. Most recently, 2 weeks ago, Michael Regan was the Biden pick for the EPA, and he was confirmed. And he has a huge history in North Carolina of aggressively fighting PFAS issues. So,
interesting. So there's definitely a lot of change potentially ahead. With that anticipated change in regulation, production and use of PFAS, how could this impact companies and investors? Is it just focused to those who are manufacturing it, or is there, a further reach?
I think the ultimate thing that I'll be talking about at the conference is really this has such far-reaching manufacturing and industrial reach that it's really not wise to think of this as just a chemical industry problem or issue. It's not. That's where all of the financial hits have taken place so far, but that's only because those are the manufacturers of the chemicals. Once the EPA enacts regulations related to PFAS, all of the states are going to have to follow suit. The states can still enact more aggressive regulations, and some probably will, but nevertheless, all 50 states and at the federal level, PFAS for the first time will be regulated. What that means is for any company that the EPA finds is contaminating drinking water or contributing to soil contamination such that there might be a Superfund site issue with respect to PFAS, they're going to go after any type of company that they find in the stream of commerce that could be contributing to those contaminations. And we've already seen this, or I've already seen this too in my own practice play out for small companies, large companies who, had no idea that they were even using PFAS, may not have actually been using PFAS in their products, bought land that contained PFAS in the soil already, and they're getting hit with violation notices. And that's what's going to explode once there are federal regulations. There are going to be violation notices to companies who really were unprepared for any of this. And the EPA and the state arms of the EPA are going to be seeking large amounts of damages for remediation costs, cleanup costs, fines and penalties in some instances. And, personally, I've seen clients of ours, companies who have had to pay, high six figures for remediation costs, and they had no planning for this in place. So it's really something that's quite significant. And, obviously all of the attendees at the conference will understand the impacts that can have on financial portfolios.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, definitely, we encourage, thank you for sharing this information and insight. And we're really looking forward to learning more about it and hearing your advice during the conference. Again, our conference is scheduled for April 6th on the virtual Remo platform, and John will be there as one of our panelists, also as a sponsor of the event. So John, we thank you and your firm for sponsoring the event and supporting this important discussion. We will also have John available. We'll be doing some virtual roundtables after the panel discussion. So for those of you who want to directly communicate with John and ask him questions one-on-one, he will be available in some of those virtual roundtables as well. So John, thank you again for being here and sharing your information. And we look forward to seeing everybody on the 6th.
Thank you, Christy. Looking forward to it a lot.
Thank you.